Welcome to saas.unbound, brought to you by SaaS Group. I'm your host, Anna Dana, and this is the show where we chat with inspiring founders and experts to get an inside scoop on how they made their business a success. And today with me is Alexander Stoffers, founder of nextAudit, which develops software solutions for digitizing audit processes. They're steadily growing for almost 4 years and putting a lot of effort into customer education and communication and also ping pong tournaments. So welcome. See, I read your blog. I know what you're doing. Welcome to the podcast. It's great to see you here.
Yes, I think you're well informed. So I didn't know that about our ping pong tournament. So yes, thank you.
I love to do my homework and surprise founders a little bit with the knowledge. So yes, I got it this time. But back to you. Let's talk about your background first, right? And how it led you to building nextAudit.
Yes, okay. So I'm Alex. I'm coming from Aachen, a western town in Germany, the most western town in Germany. I studied here, then I moved abroad to Barcelona, and I made my thesis in Stuttgart, in the south of Germany. And then we have a crisis, 2009, and I founded together with colleagues my first startup. It's called Model Aachen. There I met your colleague Daniel. He was my successor as a CTO there. And so this was my first, it was the second startup I founded because I did half a startup I did before during my school time. And then I moved forward. I wanted to do something new, and I founded nextAudit with a colleague of mine in 2019. So yes, this year we are getting 4 years old in September, and so I love to found startups. I love software development. I'm industrial engineer, so I'm coming from the field of quality management, and I combine that together. So that's what I like to do, and I love to found startups in the B2B SaaS world.
Okay, that's awesome. I wonder what's a half startup.
Yes, half startup. So I was not officially the founder of the startup because I was not 18. And there were two friends of mine, they had to found it. So they were the official founders of that startup. And I was only, we made a contract by ourselves that a friend of mine who was also not 18 was also kind of co-founder. And my best friends or my friends in that time, they had to found it officially. They had to sign the papers, and it was fun. And we sold computer hardware. And at the end, we didn't sell so much computer hardware, but we used it ourselves. We needed computers for playing Counter-Strike and so on. And so it was not a huge business, but it was the first experience of founding something ourselves.
Okay, I think that's the best business anyone in high school wants to get themselves into. But okay, fun. Let's talk about nextAudit, right? What is nextAudit and how did you come up with it?
Yes, nextAudit. With nextAudit, we are providing an auditing platform. It's an audit management system where you can conduct all the audits or inspections in your company. So it means it's a cloud-based platform where you can proceed with your inspections, where you can plan your audits, where you conduct it, where you can do all the action tracking at the end. And this is the idea, to have one single source of truth of all the audit data, and where people can easily conduct audits, because the reality is that 90% or more or less 90% are using Excel and Word, and this is not really efficient. In the very first beginning, we try to make the process more efficient with our customers or for our customers. And then we try to leverage the data they are producing during the audit process. So that's, as an overview, that's what we are doing.
Okay. Can we at SaaS Group use it for auditing, let's say marketing of other companies, what they have been doing for the due diligence process?
Yes, I think you can use it for a lot of different things. You can use it in different use cases. We have customers using it for quality management, of course, where I'm coming from. You can use it for compliance, for information security, for supplier auditing. So everywhere where you have to check something against a standard, maybe your own standard or official standard, an ISO standard, for example, like the 9001 or 27001. So there's a lot of different possibilities to use the audit cloud.
All right. So it seems like we at SaaS Group can use it too. Dirk, Pavel, and if you're listening, there you go.
For example, we use it ourselves for our software inspections or within our release process for testing. So it means we have a test plan in the audit cloud, and we use it for product audits. Let's say it's product audit, and therefore we use it ourselves. And I think it's a good manner to go for eating your own back food. And there within that process, we see a lot of things we can better, we can improve, and so we use it ourselves as well.
Okay, so it's a very good sign. If you're using it, then it means it works and it's relevant for your business. Then there are more use cases. Okay, so as I mentioned at the very beginning, and I read your blog, and it's in German, so I read the translation of your blog.
For check if the translation is really good. I think a lot of translation services like DeepL that are really, really good powered with AI, and we can see if it was a good translation. So,
okay, I'll tell you. I'll send you what I read. But like I mentioned at the beginning, you guys are very straightforward with your customer education. There are a lot of blogs. You have a YouTube channel where you also educate your customers or potential users about the product. So where did this come from? How did you come up with the idea of putting it all out there and making sure that it's as self-served as possible?
Yes, I think it was the same principle we used with the first startup as well. So we did a lot of education. We made a lot of workshops together with the university to bring our idea into the market, to educate people. And I think, it was really a good way for getting into the market. And we are using the same principle in nextAudit as well. In the past, 10 years ago or 12 years ago, it was more on-site trainings, more workshops on site. But just now with other technologies or other mediums, we are going with LinkedIn, we are going with videos on Vimeo or something. And it worked in the first startup, and I think right now it works also in the second startup.
Okay. Does it help you with eliminating the support tickets and making sure, the customers are ready to solve their own problems by just reading your blog or watching the video?
No, it's more to get customers and not to educate existing customers. There we could be better. I have to state it. And but it's to make the market, because a lot of people, I think 4 years ago, a lot of people didn't see the possibilities of a digital process within auditing, and they ask me sometimes, okay, why should I go move away from Excel so it's working? And I think those educational stuff were important to help people to understand that it's important to go for a digital process, that it can help you to have a higher efficiency, have less documentation work in the audit process. And for us, it's more about marketing and sales and not so much about customer success at the moment. I think in the future it will be something else. Yeah.
All right, makes sense. So did you already notice which customer acquisition strategy works best for you? Is it your blog? Does SEO bring you some kind of advantages or benefits already? Or is it something else?
I think in the end, it's the mix of a lot of different different approaches. I think the best way right now is to go with an organization. It's called the Deutsche Gesellschaft. So it's an organization for quality management in Germany. and I had a lot of webinars with them. And there are people that are they are in our ICP, so they are quality managers. They are looking for a solution in audit management. And various webinars in the past before Corona, it was a lot of on-site meetings. But right now, it's always a webinar, a digital format, and that works best, I guess. I think these contacts there, they are qualified, they are educated, and they are looking for a solution. And there's the best quota of success and the effort we are putting in.
Okay, so it's like you said, maybe people are not really looking for this kind of solutions because they're used to doing it all in Excel. So you have to like really get there in the community and show them what works.
Yes.
Okay.
So it changed. I think it's a process. You see it. I always try to, even with big webinars with 50 participants, I always try to involve them, for example, with Mentimeter or so. And I think there's a change. So more people see that it's important to get rid of Excel and have a digital process. But it's still a huge amount of companies using Excel or even Word or paper. So it's really, the market is still huge for us.
Oh yeah, paper fascinates me. Every time I see a person in like the quality management or somewhere, and like especially the government organizations using the paper, I always ask them like, how much paper are you guys using per year? And they're like, a lot. Yeah. I was like, okay, you've got to change that.
Yeah. So that's quite interesting, the question of paper, because we are just moving, or we will move in the next month in a new office. And so when we move, we have only, I think, 4 or 6 folders with paper. Everything else is digital. So yeah, we are a digital company, and I see it in that moment that we only have really, really few things, physical things we have to move. So it makes it easy to move in another office next month.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And then, you know, the question of like storing it and just like finding all these pieces, I think it's just so badly managed. So please move away, move to nextAudit and do something. But awesome. Okay. You're moving to a new office. That's that's something I didn't know. And that brings
we didn't communicate yet. So I think today that's the first LinkedIn post we made, because we would like to do it in a sustainable way. Because we don't want to buy new office stuff. And for example, a colleague of mine, he was driving to Stuttgart, and we bought a lot of old chairs for the office and other things. And we're trying to do something sustainably, so not buying something new, but something with a second life, or we try to give something a second life. So this was the first post today, and we didn't communicate it before that we will move into another bigger office.
Okay. All right. So that means you guys are not remote. Where do you stand on the whole like remote first culture, and why not go there yourself?
So we are remote, but we are not fully remote. So I think we have a hybrid working model. And maybe it's because of my age that I don't feel so familiar to only go for remote work, because I think it's so important to get together. I like that. I like to get together with the team. I like coffee breaks. I like to eat together, to have lunch together, and so on. I invite today my colleagues for, I don't know, Asperger's Spargel essen. So it's yes, that's. And I invite them to my home today, and I love that. And therefore, it's fully remote situation. It's not my world at the moment. Maybe I have to learn it, but I like it in another way, to have regular meetings, and to meet.
Yeah, I don't think it's the age. It's just the fact that it hasn't been so long that, you know, we went all fully remote. I also don't really like, I enjoy being remote, but I really, really am excited about like the grouping, the retreats that we're going to have together, and any kind of opportunity to actually see the person behind the screen. Like I remember the first time I saw a picture of one of our managers, um, you know, his full picture, not just his head on my computer. And I was like, oh my God, I would never think you're so tall. So it's just like, it's so important, like to actually know people. Okay, so you're a hybrid. Are there any ways to build a culture in a hybrid setting? What are you doing to build it sustainably? And when did you start? Was it from the beginning when there were just the two of you, or it kind of grew when you were hiring?
Yeah. So we always tried, even before Corona. So we started 1 year before, or half a year before. We tried to have a lot of team events. And in my first startup, we at the end we made a lot of team events. I think sometimes it was too much because we did it weekly, and everybody felt they had to come to a team event, and it was like a pleasure to go there. But right now we try to do it regular, and like to do it in a 2 month cycle, for example. And this helped us to come together even during the Corona time or COVID time, and to create a good culture, to have a bigger communication or a lot of communication in the team. And I think that's worked well because a lot of team members are friends or became friends, and they started to work with us, and at the end they became friends in trust level. And so I think for us it worked to with that that easy method to only have team events. And of course we have, for example, when we are on site, we have our meetings, we have coffee breaks, and we have of course our physical tournaments where we try to have a bit of sports, and we try to compete against each other.
Okay. And do you get to train outside of work? So, you come back to the office and you surprise them with your new skills.
I thought about, because it was a pity. I started with one colleague. I started in a really good shape, and he is much younger, and he was a semi-professional badminton player, and he got so good. And right now it's for me hard to beat him. So I think I have a quota right now of maybe 1 to 10. When I beat him, and in the beginning it was 8 to 5 that I beat him. So for me it was a hard time to see that I didn't have so much learning, or not such a learning curve, and but he had. So yes, yeah. And I thought about training, but at the end I have 2 children and I don't have the time to do so.
You can train with them.
When I'm really small, so I think, it would not be a big learning for me.
Right. Okay. Well, but that's a great motivation. Something else about motivation, and again, something that I've read on your blog about AI, right? And the way you talk about it, and how, riding this whole wave of people getting really uneasy about AI taking our jobs. There was a great blog post that you wrote about the fact that, well, it can be helpful for auditors, but it's not going to substitute them altogether. So why do you think so? And what kind of benefits AI could bring to auditors?
Maybe I start at the beginning of nextAudit, because before we founded nextAudit, I pitched the idea that AI could leverage data, audit data, for a better development of companies. And everybody to whom I pitched said, no, it's not a good idea. How should that work? And so on. So I was not successful with that pitch. And then we decided to get it for nextAudit either way, and to do it bootstrap. So we tried to first create the platform, to make digital processes available for our customers, and then use the data we produce on the Audit Cloud platform. So, and right now it's interesting because sometimes it's the other way around, that I say, okay, be cool with AI. It's a lot of interesting stuff you can do with AI, but Climdial and our customers are coming up with ideas. Everything could be done with AI, and I say no, Climdial. So it's so interesting to see how the success of OpenAI and all the other services, how it changed all the behavior of people, so how they see AI. So that's quite interesting for me for the last 4 years. That's to come to your question. So we can use AI to make clustering. So that means we can cluster all the data, like findings, deviations we have, the measures or the actions that are taken, the efficiency test people are conducting. And we can use clustering methods to see if there are related information. So we have a kind of mesh of all the data in the Audit Cloud. And with that principle, we can create recommender systems. For example, we just had one release where we created a new module with a recommender system for measures. So that means, for example, imagine you have a site in Turkey, and there you had a huge problem with some manufacturing stuff. You took a measure, or you made some actions, and you had a great efficiency. And maybe on the other side of the world, so you have the same problem, but nobody knows. And with our technique, you can combine those data. So you see that there's the same information stored, and you can help people to get a better knowledge management, or to get knowledge to the right people. And that is, for example, one use case we just created a module for, and that helps people, not the auditor, but the audited party, to use the knowledge of the company and to use it even in other sites around the world. Because the process, it's translating the content, and then it's using the AI mechanisms to cluster those data.
Okay, that's super exciting. I feel like, AI should be mostly used for knowledge sharing and for educating other people about what's going on, and like how the same problems, like you said, on different parts of the world could be solved, or at least, maybe not in the same exact way, but it could be a use case and at least like some kind of leverage for them to fall into. Okay, that's great. So you are
that maybe to just answer the second part of your question, or the mention you made, and I don't see it the way that the auditor will be removed by AI, but I think a lot of different work steps, they will done by AI. For example, documentation work steps, they will be, so the auditor will not do the same work in the future, because right now it's a lot of documentation, it's a lot of task management and so on. And I think those kind of work steps, they will be reduced by the power of AI. And that leads to the question how an auditor should be educated. So now it's a lot of doing organizational stuff. And I think in the future, it will be much more about communicating with people. It will be more the audit itself, what's getting important. So auditors need more methodology knowledge and so on. And that will change in a really huge way.
Okay, all right. That's fascinating. I feel like you're absolutely right, and all the mundane tasks will be taken away from any kind of job, right? Well, not any physical job, obviously, but something that we do digitally. I could absolutely see it. So the same for copywriters, like checking the spelling and so on. But the creativity and the communication, that's something that people will still need to work on.
Yeah.
Okay. So you're already implementing this stuff, right?
Yes. So we have several customers using it right now in a kind of a beta stage. And yes, so it's in the software. And I think what is important, we don't use services like OpenAI, so the data stays in our data room or in our data region, and so it's conform with the GDPR requirements. And yes, so it's something we implemented based on same technologies OpenAI, for example, is using.
Okay. So do people that you talk to first about AI and audit now regretting not backing you up, guys?
I don't know because our business, so it's B2B SaaS business. It's so our sales cycles, they are really long, and I think it's quite interesting market, but it's not a hyper grow market. So I think for a lot of investors, we are not so interesting because I don't see it for myself that it's hyper growing, but it's still really interesting because you have a lot of slack of the customers. We don't have churn, for example, and huge customers we got. And so for me, it's interesting that a lot of investors were looking for 10x multiples per year. So we are not interesting.
Okay. All right. That makes sense. So let's talk about the fact that you're bootstrapped, right? And it was maybe not the decision that you made lightly, but it's something that you went on with. So how do you feel now bootstrapping the business? Are there any hacks that help you do that? How careful are you with cash flow? And is there anything that you wouldn't do without making sure that you're cash flow positive?
Yes. So at the end, I started with the idea on not going for bootstrap startup the second time. But then I saw that I don't have experience with all the investment stuff. So for me, it was quite more easy to go for a bootstrapping startup for the second time. And for example, we used governmental programs. We tried to leverage all the money we got from our customers with governmental programs, scientific programs, and so on to leverage that. And that was, for us, it was kind of growth hack or hack to get more resources that day. And then I worked a lot with the students. So they are highly motivated. We have good access to students in Aachen with a big university. So that was also a kind of hack. I think if we were placed somewhere in the middle of nowhere, it would be really hard to get the right people and to get people motivated. And I would not say cheap, but people with a university background and working students, the payroll is not so high. Then at the end, I think cash management is really, really important, of course. And I put a lot of effort in the liquidity planning. And I love the idea of effectuation, or what means that you try to do the best with the resources you have, so that you're not aiming for 10x if you don't have the resources, but that you try to do the best with everything you have in place.
Right. I admire scrappy founders, like especially coming from my background in a tech startup where we had no marketing budget whatsoever, like zero marketing dollars. It was so much fun to try and to navigate and like get partnerships and like do a podcast or write blog posts and see where we could go with it. So what's your most scrappy technique that works for you?
Good question. I don't really have an idea what I could mention. So because we made customers by a lot of different techniques or approaches. For example, I did a lot of research at the beginning or before I started nextAudit. And right now we got a really, really huge German company with 50,000 employees as a customer. And they came from that time. So they remembered, they tried out themselves. They tried to create a software themselves. And right now they came back. So I think, I cannot tell you some technique where I say that's the best approach. So because it's so different, some customers are coming with a blog post, some customers are coming because of our webinars. And I think that, if I have to mention one, I think the webinars with that organization to go there, that's the most important thing we are doing right now. But I don't really have a good idea on that question.
All right, that makes sense. No, I completely understand, because especially at the early stages, it's pretty much everything you do, right? So just
I'm sorry. Maybe I can give some negative examples. I would not recommend to do, because at the beginning we had customer where we tried to implement new features only for one customer, and we were not focusing not enough on our idea, on our product idea, and that was something I think at the end what took a lot of time. And we could be much faster when we would have been more focused on our idea. And I call it the first grade requirements of customers and the second grade requirements. And I think one thing what is really important for every tech founder, for every product founder, that you focus on the second grade requirements. For example, first grade for me would be I have to have that button in red. But the second grade requirement is that maybe that button is so important, and that you have to think about how could you implement something what's fitting to your product strategy. And I knew about that because of my first startup. And even with my second startup, I think I did it much better than in the first startup. But even there, I've seen it right now that we could have been focused much more on the product strategy. And at the end, that this would be or would lead to a much more success and much more speed at the end.
Yeah, makes sense. Okay, but the fact that you have now this huge customer, is it?
We have very huge. Well, so it's not only one. We have really some customers.
So, like this huge customers, well, as far as I can assume, they bring the major revenue to the company. So how to stay focused, like you said, on the product and not try to go after these huge customers, fearing that they're going to leave you. And because they're so huge, the feeling that you kind of have to listen to them and have to implement the red button just because you're kind of afraid that they're going to leave you. So how to balance that?
I'm not so afraid that they leave, because the sales, as I mentioned, the sales cycle is really long. And if they decide to go for one system, and if you don't do something really stupid, they will not leave in the first 3 or 5 years. And I think that is something I learned also from the first startup. There we were afraid that somebody is leaving, and that we should go for the requirements they have to us. And right now, I don't have that fear anymore, because on the one hand, we are growing in a good way. So we have several customers, huge customers, and even if one customer would churn, then it would not be the big problem. And I think at the end, for the next 10 years and for all the other customers, it's much more important that we stay focused on with our product strategy, and that sometimes you have to help your customer to stay focused and to say no. And that the no is much more important to say yes. Even in the daily business, of course, it's always hard to say no. And I think I'm not the best in saying no to a customer, but this is really important.
Right. Okay. Well, just a couple more questions. The first one is the usual one. What has been so far the biggest win and the biggest failure for nextAudit?
Yes, I thought about that you would ask that question, and it's so hard to see the biggest win. I think at the end a lot of different steps, and maybe one win was right now this huge customer. So it will be, or it is right now, the biggest customer we won. But there were a lot of different small steps. I think the biggest failure, or the biggest a problem I faced, was that 3 employees, they left the company because during the COVID pandemic, we were not so successful to get new customers. And the payroll, it was right?
That's okay.
I think my colleagues know that I'm in the talk right now, so I'm wondering. Okay, I'll have to repeat it once again. I think I start from the beginning. I was expecting that question a bit, and I thought about it, but I didn't. I don't have a clear answer that we have one really big win in the last 4 years. I think one win was the first customer. It was it's a so great feeling when you grab the first customer. Then the second thing was when the product went well, and when we've seen that it works quite well. I think that was also a really positive thing we faced. And right now, the new customer we just got, who's the hugest, the biggest customer we won right now. But there were a lot of different wins and a lot of different failures. And I think, at the end, the biggest failure was when a couple of people left the company because during the Corona period, it was quite hard for us to grow. And therefore, that was those days were really, really hard for me because I thought, okay, how should I manage that? And that was really the biggest problem I faced in the whole 4 years. But at the end, it worked. We got better. We've seen that it works even with a smaller amount of people, with a smaller team, and we focus. And I think at the end, it was really important for us to face that problem, to have that problem. Yeah.
Right. Okay. I think that's always a challenging time for a founder when they have to let go of people that shape the company, especially like if they've been with you from the very beginning. So that's very understandable. Okay. Well, Alexander, it's been great talking with you. I think you've got a very fascinating story and still a long way to grow. But if somebody in the audience wants to try the product or reach out to you, how would they do it?
Go to our website at next-audit.de and or contact me with my mail address, Stoffers at next-audit.de. So you can get in touch with us or search for the Audit Cloud. You will find us. And of course, I would love to talk about auditing maybe in the marketing industry or somewhere else. So I'm always open for discussions and just get in contact with me.
Okay, we'll definitely get back to you about marketing audit because that's something I'm super interested in. Well, Alexander, again, thank you for an amazing story and take care.
Thank you for having me and have a nice day. Thank you.